morning. I'm John Robinson. I'm Associate Pastor of First Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, an associate. And I'm here with Abiding Faith Ministries, and we're going to be doing a class teaching architecture, engineering, the fundamentals of art. There's going to be a variety of topics that we're going to cover, and I have my students here. This is the first day we began to start. I like to start off, as I always start, everything that I always start in life, that would be with a moment of prayer. Most Holy Infinite Father, Lord God, our soon coming King, here we are once more time and again, humbling ourselves before thee the best we know how. Just to give you the praise that you so much deserve, for you the grand architect and the grand engineer of the universe, and we want you to be with us as we move forward with this class as the students began to come in. Ask you to bless each and every one that's here today. In Jesus' name we pray, amen, amen, amen. That portion being out of the way, I'd like for everyone to introduce themselves this morning, who they are, and briefly what interest you have in the class. I'll start down here with Pastor McCall.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Associate Pastor John McConville from First Antioch Baptist Church. This is a class that I have been wanting to learn, and I know that I will greatly learn it from a great man of God. God bless you all.
My name is Sierra McConville. I am the wife of John McConville, and I just want to learn something.
My name is Christina, and this is my first time. I love to learn.
Good morning, I'm Barney Robinson, and I wanted to learn about engineering.
Good morning, my name is G.B.R, and I know too, and I wanted to learn architect.
My name is Elijah Robinson, and I'm ready to
Okay.
My name is G.B.R Robinson, Jonathan Robinson, and I'm here to learn engineering.
That means behind the camera is George Boston Rhines, the man of the hour, the Get to Free Press, and he's a civil rights activist and a prominent cornerstone, an icon of our community, someone that we look forward to, and he provides all the black media and the news that others don't report. That being said, let me introduce who I am, a little bit about me. I teach this class to educate people with what's going on in our everyday lives. We're going to be covering a little geometry. We're going to get involved in some technology. But what we're going to start out with is understanding what we're going to have for the class. Okay? I got on the clipboard up here, you barely can see it, but it reads the things you're going to need. You're going to need a notepad and tablet. Okay? So you can take notes and everything as we go along, but we're going to get into the geometry of the science, of architecture, engineering, so we're going to be doing isometric drawings and this kind of thing. You're going to need a calculator, so you can calculate the numbers. So when we go into floor plans, and a guy said he wanted a 10 by 20 by 4 inch thick concrete slab, you got to know how to figure the geometry of getting the actual concrete, the amount that goes in there, okay? We'll need a drawing and sketch pad, something you can draw and sketch on. You're gonna need a standard compass that we can make circles, and we're gonna need a 18-inch T-square. Let me see, I got one here. This is the T-square, okay? So you understand what we're gonna be needing. This is a typical T-square. You're gonna have to get one of these. I provide some, but I won't provide all of them. You're gonna need a drawing clipboard, and the drawing clipboard, one of these boards here, okay? This is gonna be your drawing clipboard you can attach your work to. You want to get an 18 by 18 larger size. You don't let them no smaller than that, because the paper that you're going to be using is going to be pretty good size, and we need to be on it that we can set various points on the drawing. This is an old work of one of the students that I had that we got into isometrics, and he began to do the work just to give you an idea, the kind of drawing points, like perspective points starting from here, and give you a perspective point of view of isometrics when we get into isometrics. Okay? Can you see it? Can you focus in on it? Okay. And just give you a general idea of what we're going to be doing, and see the size of that sheet versus against this pad. This pad is actually too small for this sheet. But we'll be working off these tables. I didn't want to work off the table because of the texture of the table might interfere with your drawing. So, that being said, what we're going to do is I'm going to change the slide here to number 2. And if you can get these materials, it's going to be something that we would need. And we're going to go to another slide once we get it up. But when we teach the class, you're going to learn how formulas play a role in our everyday role of everything that you do. Okay? What we have here is what you're about to learn is the function of formulas. All right? And how they apply in everyday common walk of life. Understand the cubic feet, for example. What is a cubic feet? How many are there in 1 cubic yard? Okay? I brought this box here to demonstrate that this is actually a cubic foot. 1 cubic feet. Okay? And the question that it asks is how many cubic feet are there in a cubic yard? Now, a cubic yard is going to take 27 of these cubic feet to make 1 cubic yard. Now, on here, I got letters on the front. The letter A is for advancement. Class is going to be for your advancement. Your knowledge of what you're going to be learning, what you're going to be doing. All right? On the side, you got an E for efficiency, meaning that your work going to be done in an efficient manner. It's not going to be done in it's going to have integrity to it. In other words, you're going to put your heart, your mind into it. We're going to teach the class. Okay? I got letter D. Okay? For dedication. In other words, you got to be dedicated to the cause. You want your life to advance? You got to think in advancement. You want to dedicate your time to your study. Okay? I also got the letter C, which represents the cubic foot. We talked about that. We got the letter V. It's a balance. Okay? Everything in life is based on balance. Your universe is based on balance. When you walk, it's based on balance. So when you're working in your class and you're going to show the symmetry of different drawings and design, and it's got to make sense. You can't take a weight scale that weighs 30 pounds and take a 30-pound block and put on it, and then take a 2-pound block put on it, and want the 2-pound block that raised up the 30 pounds. That just don't make sense. So your drawing got to make sense. Okay? Change the slide to the 3rd slide. See what we got in here. Now, the first thing we're going to start out with, can everybody see that? Can you see it pretty good? You're going to try to focus and see if you can make it focus a little bit better. Can y'all read that, Ryan?
Computer skills.
Right about there. Is that better?
That's good.
That's a little better, it's really light, so that about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, got the best you're gonna get it. Now, there are common scales used from this inch. Okay? I do out just represent 1 inch. 1 inch. Okay? Not the whole ruler of the foot, but just 1 inch. In order for you to be able to read a scale that produces hold on. Bear along with me. Give me that scale over there. That right there. Okay. In order for you to read the scale, we just pick it up this time, please.
Oh, okay.
Open on the book. All right. This is the layout, the plan. I think I almost have the house of that. Open it up, let's see what we got. Let's see what we got on these plans.
Push it still.
Okay, open another page. On 1.6. What do you need? No, that's not. We need it. Go that way. Give me 1 minute. Okay, this is what I want to show. All right. Now, in order to produce a scale floor plan of a house. Okay, to produce this drawing, you have to know how to read this scale. If you don't understand the measurement, common measure, you can't read the scale. In other words, we're going to do show you how to create a interpretation that we're going to interpret the drawing by the scale. We can't take actually 10 feet and draw on this page, not in real life. So we got to use a scale, which would be a 16th, a 1/8, 3/16, on and on. I'm gonna go over there this minute to verify which one we're going to use to produce the drawing. You see, we can go with that. Now, what we want to do is understand that we're going to have in this inch, we're going to have a 16th scale, a 1/8 scale, a 3/8 scale, a 1/4 inch, a half, and a 3/4 inch scale. All of these are different scales. So if you decide to use the 1/16 scale, you'll see on your drawing that the 1/16 measurement of here represents 10 feet, 1 feet, or whatever you say the amount of feet you want to represent throughout the whole entire drawing. So that when you get out on the site, if the picture fades, like this here, kind of faded away and you can't hardly read it, then you can take your tape measure out, or your scale out, and measure the drawing, and it's going to tell you exactly what the feet is according to the scale. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Huh? You sure? You got any questions about what I'm saying? I don't want to move too fast, don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but to understand the concept of the scale. Now, we're going to start with this, the 16th. Concentrate on the 16th scale. So when you draw the 16th scale, then you can do the whole entire drawing that you're going to put together based upon using the 16th scale of this scale here. Now on this scale, it's got 1.5 inches, a 3/8, 3/4, 3/32, 3/16, 1/4 inch, and a 1/8 scale. Okay? So we will, if you decide to use the 1/8 scale, we'll use the 16. And we said we decided 1/8 scale, it'll be based on the same concept. All of them are based on the same concept. The only thing is, whatever scale you decide to use, you use the 3/8 scale, that means that the whole entire drawing got to be did on that scale. If you use the 1/4 inch scale, that means that 1/4 inch is foot, 1/4 inch is 2 foot, 1/4 inch is 10 foot. Whatever you determine, you want the foot to equal, okay? You got to draw it in that scale. If you use the 1/2 inch scale, the same principle apply. If you use the 3/4 inch scale, that same principle apply. Now, understanding the inch, all right? So when we go to deal with the 1 inch, and we're going to talk about this 1 inch, but you got to definitely understand what it is. We got, if we're using the 16 scale, there's 16 parts, including all of the numbers, with disregard the 1/8, the breakdown, and the fraction. You're going to use the entire count. It's 16 parts. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 1 inch. You got that? Hmm? So now, don't look at it and get confused and say, man, it's got 1 inch in there. Okay? Now, if I was to use 1 inch scale, it'd be 1, 2, I count them all. 1, 2, 3, 4. You have it. 5, 6, 7, 8. And that gives me the whole count on the 8. You only count the 8. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So if you're on the 1/2 inch scale, you only count the 1/2 inch. Half, that'll be 1/2 inch. That's the only one you're going to count. You follow? You use 3/4 inch scale, you only going to count the 3/4. But if you use the 16, you got to count all of the numbers to understand the measurement of the inch. What they do is they give a breakdown, and you got 16 parts. Now, that's not all the parts to an inch. It goes on and on and on to 124, to 164, all the way down to that. But we're going to concentrate on what we're going to be using. To understand the measurement, do y'all understand now how you use to read the tape? So in other words, I tell you to give me the tape, it's 1. That'd be the 1 inch mark right here. Okay? If I tell you to give me 2.5 inches, that'd be 1, 2, and then the 1/2. Follow me? Y'all understood that? Could you see that, man? Okay. Can you see it now? Yeah, man.
Okay, zoom it, probably.
Yeah. Anyway, it'll be 12 inches to the regular ruler. Then if you use the tape measure, you go by your 10-foot tape measure, you buy your 15-foot tape measure, a 16-foot measure, or a 24-foot, a 25-foot measure like that, a 50-foot like that. And every one of them will be an infinite amount of numbers. Up to 10 feet, if you go to 10-foot tape, it's going to tell you all to 10 feet. But everywhere there, and it's in represent 1 inch. If we added another to the end, it'll say 2 inch. Okay? And if you add another to it, it'll say 3 inch. Just like that. Now, I didn't bring a regular measure tape because I normally do. Okay? And I can pull the tape out and show you what the measurement really would be. But understanding how to read this, to understand how to interpret this, to work on your drawings. Now, pass me the drawings right there.
See?
No, them little. Now, what we're going to get into now is I'm going to be showing you basically the fundamentals. Now I went through the part with the floor plans and the isometrics. Put the isometrics up there first. Put the other one. Use the other one.
You don't want both of them?
No, this is one.
Upside down?
Yeah, upside down.
There you go.
Okay. That's good.
There you go.
All right. Well, it's still black, I believe.
Huh?
But it's okay.
Either way.
Anyway, to give a general idea of what isometrics is, this is a sloppy drawing that I just put together. But to give you an idea, this is an old torque converter out of the old car. Okay? And when you do it, it breaks it down and puts it apart. Now, when we're talking about isometrics, this is what we'll be doing and teaching you how to do isometrics. Okay? But we're going to do the floor plan first. Then it's going to lead us into isometrics. And I'm going to go with some drawings in a few minutes to show you what isometrics should be and what they'll be like. But in other words, you can see how they one part join to the next part, the next part join to the next part, and so on. Now, if you look at it close, you'll see it's smaller here than it is back in here, and it gives a perspective point of view. Okay? On the table out there before you, some places you'll see some drawings from those students I had that will show perspective. And we're going to be able to scale those. Alright? Because it's going to be did in a perspective manner. Meaning it's going to be smaller and larger, like that right there. You have other dimensions. And it's going to be a setup. And what you're going to find is that you hear me referring to a term called the dot. Okay? And when we get to the point where I say we use the dot, we can take that dot and place the dot right there. Okay? And see it's an imaginary dot right there. Okay? And that gives us a starting point as a reference to use on your paper. You're going to have a dot. Okay? In the center of the paper. So when you go to break down a drawing on whatever you're going to find, you're going to find the very absolute center of the paper. So if the paper is 8 by 16, I mean it's going to be 4 inches one way, 8 inches another way, and it's going to be find the perfect center of that paper. Then you're going to create a cross. You're going to create that right there. Okay? Before you start the drawing. You see it up. You're going to create that. It's the image you're going to create before you start the drawing. We always start there. Excuse me. In the center is the dot. Alright? We're going to be able to design anything that we want to design from that dot. And these are going to be used as reference lines that we're going to pull from and measure with that scale. Alright, y'all understand what I'm saying? All these can be used as reference lines to pull from by using the scale. So that if you got a floor that's 10 feet wide with a hole in it that's 3 foot or whatever, you'll be able to find the center and you can put a line, you'll be able to identify where that 3 foot hole should go within those 10 feet. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Okay. So all that's going to be the concept of design. Okay? And with our isometrics, we base off the same principle. So when we say about drawing, we have different points we're going to pull from. And it's going to create the illusion. Now what we are illusion creators. We don't create illusions, make it look like it's standing out of the picture. Okay? Now, what you're about to learn now, what I'm going to teach you, is you'll only find this probably in your 4th year of college. So, but you can use it common in everyday walk of life. But to a student that's going to school and to college, he'll see this appear. When he gets there, he say, my God, I already got it in my head. So when he go on the computer and go into software, he understands the concept of what he's about to go into to learn on AutoCAD or Revit. Because he knows the concept out here. The first computer is your brain. Okay? And you can change that one. And but that's gonna be isometric kind of drawings we're gonna be doing. And that's the sloppy drawing. Now this here, what you putting up now? You can see that pretty good? Okay. You good.
It's just not dark enough. There's only,
It ain't dark enough.
there's only so much you can do because it's not dark.
Cut it.
Okay, focus this a little bit more. Back the other way. Right there, right there. Right, I can see that. Alright, that's a dot within the circle. Okay? The dot is at the center of the paper, what we found right here. Okay? It's within a circle made by a compass. The compass made that dot. Now what is the compass? Give me that back right now. So you understand what the compass is. All right. These are compasses of different sizes. All right. I'm gonna walk down where you can take a look at them. Now, you notice I open it up, and that determines the size of the circle that I'm going to be drawing. Y'all understand? In other words, if I want a 2-inch circle, I have this measurement. This is the point here. There's a point on this that can stick a hole in the paper. All right? Y'all understand that? Look at this compass real good. Feel it, touch it. Now feel the point there. Don't stick your finger. See that little point right there, the needle right there? That's gonna stick in the paper. They're gonna draw the line. Feel it? That under the tip. Feel it? That's actually sticking in the paper. And that sticking in the paper here, ain't gonna draw a line. Draw a circle. Perfect circle. Okay? That's the compass. And let me take it down here. See that little point right there? Okay? That's the little point right there. That's how you see your paper. Alright? Really good? Alright, so what this do? This describes a perfect circle. And as we got here, we're going to use the compass and create that dot in the center of the circle that made this circle here. Okay? That's the dot within the circle. It's placed inside of a square box with the horizontal line, vertical line down the center. And as you can see here, I put numbers on here representing the degrees of the circle. We'll start at 0 degrees right here and down here. And when we start at 0, we'll come up to 22.5 degrees, 45 degrees, 90 degrees, 135, 180, 225, 270, 315, and back to 360 degrees, which complete the whole circle. You're going to be using these degrees in your design and your concept when you work with round objects and objects that depend on different type of curves that you're going to create and you're going to understand. Now, From this, we can design anything that we want to design. From this. Mechanically. Okay? And so isometric drawings and this kind of thing. You see here, when you look at this square, you look at this perspective, and this point back here, this is what I want to tell you about when we start on the drawing. This is where the dot is that dot. And it gave you a perspective point of view, made it larger with it, advances the way back here, it looked like an oblong box. Disregard this line here. You look at the box, and the oblong box that look up against the box of the semi-trailer. You understand what I'm saying? All right. Now, inside the circle, you got a little circle right here. It can think about a tank laying down. But it's got the perspective point of view, it's all full from this one point. Okay? And what that does, that gives you an illusion. Okay? Now, when we start dealing with this, you're going to find we got this little square box in here. That represents, they call it a right angle. Okay? This line here, I wish this thing was a little clearer, but we got to live with what we got. This thing here shows a solid line. And that's called the vertex. The center line is the vertex. This line here is called the antenna. Okay? Our dot, what I call the dot, actually called the vertex. Okay, y'all understand what I'm saying? What the dot is called?
Vertex.
Okay, that's the name of that dot. But I just call it the dot. Call you can use it anywhere. They're going to locate on our page. Now the vertex is where the antenna pivots from. Like I'm holding this now. Back here where my finger is the dot. Alright? Now, it's 90 degrees right there. Okay? Clockwise, the clock turns this way, right? To the right. Okay? Now, the antenna always travel counterclockwise to the left. You follow me? Okay? At this point, we have 90 degrees. At this point, we have 135 degrees. On this side, if we rotated opposite direction, it'd be 45 degrees, which would be right here. But by the vertex traveling counterclockwise. You don't travel clockwise, you travel from the left toward the left, not the right toward the left. Now the regular clock is clockwise to the right. But the vertex travels like this. Okay? So it starts from ground zero. And ground zero represents what? 22.5 degrees, but it's still ground zero. Okay? From starting with degrees. Now, here we'll reach 45 degrees, which will be here. 45, I'm sorry, 22.5 will be right there. I got that in the wrong place. This is actually wrong. The only thing I'm wrong, 22.5 will be right here. Okay? That represents 22.5 degrees on this point. Right here represents 45 degrees at the right angle. So I look 22.5 the wrong place, you can read it up here. So ground zero starts here, then it reaches the 22.5 degree mark. Traveling counterclockwise, then it comes to 45 degrees, then it comes to 90 degrees. Now, if I was to relate this to our lives, okay, you will be the dot within the contained within the circle. You got a parallel line here, you got a parallel line here, okay? And the line that you have is this line you got across here is horizontal line, and this line extends all back to 180. And when we look into these lines, we'll find that at 90 degrees, everything is straight up and down. In real life, when you deal with people, you got to deal with them straight up and down. So when you work with your art, you got to think about the realness of life. Okay? So art is a formula that's created by God, and everything during creation when He created the whole world. Right? And now, in order for you to be a true artist, you got to believe it's a God. You got to, that's one of the foundations of art. Is that if you believe In your artwork, you must believe in God because He's the who? The grand architect, the grand engineer, He's the creator of all things. And all we can do is come in and create illusions. And here's real life. You know the concept what you go through day by day and things like that. But anyway, get back to this. We got to understand that over here is a borderline. This concept we can utilize to design anything that we want to design and understand the concept of it. Y'all have any questions about what I'm talking about? You got any questions? Now, if you're curious about anything, ask me the question. And what we're going to do is you're going to get started next week on actually setting up to do a floor plan. And I'm only going to let the class last 45 minutes to an hour. And we're going to cover all the kids. We're going to go back over this again next week, or whoever comes that's new. Then when the third week come around, that's going to be who we're going to be constantly teaching for the whole year. Okay, so I'm trying to get that number right. But we can't go back over all this information over and over. Now, what you're going to be learning is that everything you do relates to real life. I brought these gloves. Demonstrate. You see how there's the stains on these gloves? Huh? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's for working people. You understand? Mm-hmm. What you're gonna learn here is for working people. And we're gonna get students in here. I got work displayed at VSU. That's in the permanent archives, that's art. And we're going to get into the fundamentals of art and the concept of all this design. So, I'm going to tell you something that was told to me years ago. Tie a knot in the rope and hold on, because we're going to go for a ride. All right? Now, what I'm going to show you here is the kind of drawings and stuff that we're going to be doing other than the floor plans and the isometrics and all that. And we're going to make it be fun. When we start out with isometrics, this is what we're going to start out with, drawing the box that you showed me this morning. That is going to lead from this, we're going to draw a little square. We're going to cut, we're going to paint them in, color them in. I got markers here. Some of them are dried up because they're old. I got some that's still clear. I got a box full of markers, okay, that you can be able to utilize and use. Now, each one of these markers, now this marker got $5.49 a piece. That means you know? Okay? So, I mean, when you get done with it, once you put the caps back on. Yeah. Yes. So, that's what they call it a piece now. But I love art. All right? So these markers we'll use to show you different concepts of design. We're going to start by building these little squares. Y'all see? It can be the beginning. We're getting fun of up, but we're going to do the floor plans first. Y'all see it? Okay? The next thing is we're going to take and create this box right here. Okay? We're going to create this box. Y'all see it? And that's from the first phase of the first block, and this is the beginning of isometrics. Right there. Y'all can see it? That's going to be the beginning of the isometric drawing, the one that I showed that had all the parts to it. Coming from that right there. Okay? Then we're going to begin to show different textures. All right? Of what that block will look like when we finish our final work. You got it there, Doctor? Okay? And it's going to show that. Y'all see it? Then we're going to get into All these is, actually I did all of these. Now these they're not no, these is hand drawn. And we're getting the different textures of different styles of textures. Okay? Which we got the brick, old age concrete that cracked. We got the modern day cement right here. And we got wood structure on the first day. Y'all see it? Mm-hmm. You're gonna learn how to do all of this. If I can get me a year or so. So when we take the class, we'll attend the class. You're gonna learn this. I'm going over this for the next 2 weeks. The same thing we covered today, I'll cover for the 2 more weeks. But we're going to start the full plan next week. But I'll be going back over this before with you and be here and become a prominent student so we can keep up with everything that we're going. I don't want to go back over the same thing and don't give you nothing to advance with it when you come to the class. Then we're going to get into furniture design. All right? Y'all see that? And then all that's coming from that what's up there. Okay? We build the furniture design. Coloration. With respect to points to be on it, the whole thing. So you decide to go into career. I studied commercial art for 7 years. When you began to understand the concept of art, all this is going to be part of it. When you use this, you're going to use that furniture sitting in the room, and you're going to show the perspective of the room. Got it up? So that you can understand the concept of reality by creating this illusion. Okay? Then we're going to get into how to draw human eyes and people's bodies and this kind of thing. We're going to get to this stage of that. Okay? This will be down the road. But a lot of it can still come from here. Okay? Because you got to have the center to start with and to pull your measurements from. I'm going to teach you how to do scale drawings. Leonardo da Vinci and them did scale drawings. They didn't just pick it up like you see a lot of the hand free. That's good, but they're off. There's something about them that's off. But when Leonardo da Vinci and Rembrandt, those guys, they did scale work. Okay? They were masters at it. Okay? We will even get into being able to make postcards. All right? Like you want to make a card up for somebody? Here's something we get through together here with this idea that you be able to make a postcard or a stamp or something of that nature. All right? Can you see it being on the stamp? You understand? It's the concept of it. Then, of course, we're going to get into this guy right here, cartoon. How to do those two. All right, I did this one. All right, and you see that character look? All right, and you let me see him. What's up, Doc? Y'all see him? So we'll be getting to the fundamentals of this. That's why we call it the fundamentals of art. All right? So that's what we're going to be getting into. And I want y'all to understand where it all starts from and where it all ends up at. And I want you to be able to teach someone else the concept. Talk about it. Talk among yourselves and make it work. Let me hold the little green things right now. And we're going to be using templates. Okay? You have templates like these. You got different designs, bathrooms, kitchen sinks, all in here. So when you're putting your drawing together, you got bathroom commodes, all that right here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. On your drawing, that would be a bathroom commode. Okay. See that, Doc? Hey. Take your finger out your eye, son. All right. So you can see this. It is very important. Yeah, that right there, that represents toilet commode on your drawing. That right there. When you put the shovel down, that's what it looks like. And you do this temper to put it on. Okay? Now, when you scale is 4 inch, you need one with a bigger temper, which you have all the tempers. And then not, you got to really draw it on them. So we normally use tempers according to our scale. Then you got a variety of oblong shapes. Okay? See that? The oblong shapes for different designs and concepts of what you have there. Like you find something with overlay and you can't find, you take this template and you'll match it up on your drawing just to save time. If not, you got to use that compass. This is another type template. Got all the different type designs. If you're working with pipe, see it right there? It's 90 degrees, that's a 90, like that. And this here is a circle master right here. So if you got different size circles that you want to make half circles, you can use these for different sizes. All these are usable templates. So what I do, I normally find the templates that we're going to be using, I'm going to be constructing the class. But when you go out in real life and you say this is what you're going to be doing, where you can get your own templates and this kind of thing. So we down to our last 5 minutes. Now I want to show you. This is a drawing that I did of showing compassion. Okay? When a dog with flower in its mouth, you know, this kind of thing. Now, this is a replicated picture that I've done from a small picture. But I put the roses, I put the stem around, I do all of this. But another artist was the founder of the dog. Okay? And he had a flower in his mouth, I redrew it. And I just put this around. You'll never claim somebody else's work. Compliment. Found like that. But I need to actually drawing here. I just put the throne gold fresh around. But when I first seen it reminded me of the compassion of love, of love. Okay? Something that we got to have in this world to make things really work. We got how to draw flowers. You get a new idea, you can borrow these books. How to do flowers. Concept of flowers and how you go about that. And that there reminds me of Danielle's going to well with one of my books. We got the one to see how to draw faces. Okay? Y'all see that? You see how it's up? You see it though? And y'all see how it starts up? The old shapes and concept of learning. Y'all see that? And it's gonna be very unique. And All of these things we're gonna get into. And let me move this box. I want to show you something else. Alright, these are the kind of drawing pads that you want to get. Now this one was found, I always catch them on sale. They'd be 40-50% off. Like this was 19 bucks. I paid $8 and something for it. $9, alright? So, and the space that's on here is the kind of drawings that you can do on this paper. Okay? And it says down here, essence for dry media. Okay, this is you can do water paint on these if you like, maybe drawing. Feel the fix of that paper. Feel the fix of that. See the difference? When you feel like that, always use your hand to feel that. Extend the net, you don't want to use water clothes on. Okay? So that the band breathe through it and make the paper wither and crumple all up. So that's making the size you need. And then I got the larger one here. It's the one that I'll be like two of these the same size. Larger one here that we've been using for perspective drawing. That's why I wanted you to get the bigger board. Okay? Because you got to have you have to set up a dot way out here to create an object out here for the size that you make the object, right? And sometimes you have to put a dot here to create an object you located here. And then you don't want to get there and then have to put paper down and tape it down until you can create where you're gonna put these dots at. You want to start with something that's efficient that would work. Well, I know we into a good conversation, but our class for today have just ended. I thank y'all for coming out. And I thank you, George Ryan, for what you did for us today for this service. And appreciate everyone coming out. And maybe next weekend we go back at the same time and then we'll recruit other, if you know anyone, from the age of 10 on up, invite them and see how they like it. But we have a 3-week window before we actually get into our detailed, long journey for that rough ride that we've been riding on, but enjoyable. Okay? So that being said, we started out with a prayer. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask you a question before you
Yes,
go.
sir.
The knowledge that you're giving out is something that some people probably never mastered. So my question to you is very short. Have you ever taught someone this information that went on to success that you could talk about in terms of where they fit into the
Oh yeah. I taught my son. And one of them I taught all my boys, in fact, one of them got a company called Fabrico Fabrication and Master of Design and good in their field. They're certified by the state of Georgia and the state of Florida. And they're disadvantaged minority business enterprises, which have been outlawed by Trump. But they're there. And he owns his own building and own properties. The other one is John Cornelius Robinson, and he owned a company by the name of Tribe, an architecture firm out of Atlanta, doing exceedingly well and embarking upon great things. The other one is Marcus Robinson. He owns Strive Engineering, and he is in Midtown, downtown Atlanta, in the most exclusive area of the city. It'll take you there, but the main thing of it is you got to have it within you, the desire to want it. Like this box says, you're going to need the dedication. Okay? For the efficiency. And you definitely want to be dedicated. In other words, God gave every man a gift of some sort. Okay? Some may be singing. Some may be Dancing? Huh? Anybody that? Some may be dancing, some may be all sorts of things, but they got a talent. And you need to captivate on what you love to do. If you love to cook, hey man, you stimulate others' taste buds and they want to eat, that means they're coming by. Any man that build a better mousetrap moving to the desert, people gonna come from the city to the desert to go visit that man that built that better mousetrap. Just that simple. And you do it by knowledge. And we're gonna close out by understanding that we are this dot within the circle between two parallel lines in life. And these two lines, this is the moral line, this is the moral line. And as we go down through life as a dot within this circle, trying to make it these 90 degrees at 90 years of age, trying to make it there, we're going to find that we're wobbling in life. We wobble too far to the left, to the right, then the moral principle line will bump you back in and you walk a little further. If you get too far to the left, that moral line will bump back in. So, what I'm trying to say, none of us is perfect by no means. But if we have standards that we live by, we can move toward perfection. That being said, thank you for joining us. Come back, join us next week. It'll be God's will that we all be here. Keep hope alive and stay blessed. Thank you.